In a previous video, we explored some interesting, obscure and impressive modern takes on classic survival horror that took massive inspiration from the days of the PlayStation and Sega Saturn era. While playing these games, I wanted to see what else could be out there in this format, as they are my personal favourite style of horror games to play. So after many weeks of searching, I have managed to find even more modern Resident Evil horror-inspired indie titles and demos that are sure to invoke nostalgia among us horror fans. In Echoes of Decay, you play as an ex-military agent waking up inside an abandoned hospital with no clue as to how you got there. To find a way out of the facility, you must search for clues and items to aid in progression, but along the way, you will also be confronted with infected zombies and other monstrosities. Echoes of Decay is heavily inspired by the classic Resident Evil games of the PlayStation era, influencing the gameplay style with fixed cameras, tank controls, puzzle solving and backtracking to acquire items to unlock new areas to explore, while scavenging for limited weapons, ammo and resources to survive. Every gameplay element and mechanic reminiscent of classic survival horror is instantly apparent here. The game is in active development with a playable demo being made available over on itch.io, which I have covered in a separate video that has since received additional updates to include the use of controller support, making it more accessible to players and fans of classic survival horror, and I would definitely recommend that you give it a try. In Code Dino H, you play as a lone survivor, having barricaded yourself and former team members inside of an Antarctic research facility that is overrun with dinosaurs. With your teammates now dead, you are left to fend for yourself, but you have now run out of food and water, so you have no choice but to venture out into the danger with the aim of escaping the facility. You have no weapons, so your only means of survival will be to either run or sneak your way past the dinosaurs that are constantly searching for their next meal. You must be mindful of your surroundings, as too much noise can alert enemies to your location, making it more difficult to find items you need to unlock doors and get out of the base. The less sound you make, the better your chances of survival. The visuals are an excellent throwback to the classic survival horror era with blocky, pixelated, low poly graphics that add so much appeal to the game's tension and atmosphere. It is a short experience, and very little else is known regarding any future updates or development with this interesting game. Hopefully one day it will be recognised and developed into a complete experience, but for the time being, it is another classic horror-inspired game that is definitely worth trying. Devil's Valley is a short survival horror game about a father's fight to save his daughter from a deranged scientist. The main character you play as is a schizophrenia patient, but the scientist has been taking advantage of the patient's weaknesses to conduct dangerous experiments. You will find yourself scrambling around the city streets and industrial warehouse environments to locate your daughter's whereabouts, but you will also cross paths with many hideous experiments and grotesque monsters that will try to stop you, so you must look for weapons and resources to aid in your survival. The game has all of the familiar gameplay aesthetics of classic survival horror. Old Times is a short indie horror experience, playing as a character returning to his childhood home. The journey is filled with nostalgia, reflecting on memories of the past, while you bring back life into your family home. But you soon find out that many dangers lurk close by, as there is a serial killer on the loose in the area. The game mixes VHS video with classic horror gameplay mechanics, such as tank controls and fixed cameras, requiring you to interact with various elements to solve puzzles and progress. This title was built using the free version of the Copper Cube 6 game engine, which is quite impressive to create an experience like this with limited available resources, which proves and displays the commitment and creative ideas behind the developers who make them.
Okay, I'll stop the car here. Let me see the situation of the house. The house is better than I imagined, and it looks like there's no power. I need to go outside and turn on the generator. Then sleep. I finished. Now I need to take all this rubbish to the nearest dumpster. Hey, calm down. Why come on like this?
I'm sorry.
In Revenant Returns, you play a woman named Sophie who recently lost her husband in a fire and is now a single mother looking after her son. But one day her son is abducted by an unknown entity, and since Sophie saw the event take place, she is also taken away. Later she wakes up in a strange house with an injured leg, and there is also a supernatural being, only known as the Guardian, roaming around. It is up to Sophie to escape and get her son back before something bad happens to him. This game is still under development and tries to add references of classic survival horror ideas, so it is another title that might appeal to fans of this gaming style. Self-Indulgence delves into the tormented mind of Dan, a father who must navigate mysterious, strange places in search of his missing son. You will witness a world symbolising a self-destructive cycle while confronting and battling your own inner demons. You must uncover deep-rooted secrets and strive to break free from the chains of weakness. As Dan delves deeper, he not only faces unsettling creatures, but also discovers unsettling truths about himself and his son. It is a short game that utilises classic survival horror elements to experience the suspense, with fixed camera angles and tank controls, enhancing the feeling of uncertainty. House of Necrosis is a turn-based maze horror RPG inspired by early 3D survival horror games of the 90s. A special forces team went missing while investigating a series of bizarre murder cases in an old mansion near a forest. You were sent in to find any survivors and discover the reasons behind these events. You can level up your character and upgrade your weapons through item pickups while making your way through the House of Horror. Random level generation ensures the layout, item and enemy placements will change during each playthrough. House of Necrosis is still in active development and a playable demo can now be found on itch.io. Decay is a short horror experience inspired by the Silent Hill series, following a man living his everyday life as he deals with his depression and memories of the past. Each new day brings about more issues with his life and the rise of an unknown virus that is making people sick all across the region. You will witness the events unfold that will play tricks on your mind, leaving uncertainty and seeing things that couldn't possibly be real. The horrors of solitude can feed on the decayed like a fungus. With this being a short indie horror experience, it will also cover topics of everyday occurrences seen within society. In Lala is bound, you wake up in a strange place with no known way of getting out. To have any chance of survival and escape, you must follow rules put in place that will require you to solve puzzles and find key items to allow you to unlock new areas to explore, where you will also have to contend with weird, doll-like creatures that will constantly hunt you down to kill you. This short game utilises low poly visuals, fixed cameras and tank controls familiar with classic horror games. The game also acts like an endless loop. For each time you get caught, you will yet again wake up in the room you started off in, requiring you to yet again retrace your steps in order to escape. My Silent Walk is a fan-made look into the environments and scenarios seen in the early portions of the first Silent Hill game from the PS1. You get to explore a restored part of the old Silent Hill town, where you can see the city without fog while playing as a young Cheryl. There are no enemies in this demo, but you can explore areas that you more or less couldn't access in the original game. This demo was built using the Unreal Engine and showcases that PS1 era visuals can still be impressive in the modern age of video games. In Paranormalscape, you play as a paranormal agent known as Kirsty Reynolds, who must investigate events behind what happened to the missing residents of an apartment complex and exterminate whatever might be hiding there. You will explore many rooms and corridors, finding clues and notes on computer terminals that will provide insights into the lives of the missing people before they disappeared. The game, while having a very futuristic vibe, utilises a similar fixed camera and tank control playstyle seen in early survival horror games. It is a short experience but has a lot of promise, so it would be interesting to see future updates of this game. The Sirena Expedition is a 2.5D atmospheric platformer where you explore a mysterious abandoned underwater facility at the bottom of the Marina Trench. You have lots of questions that need answering. Who built it? What was it used for? Perhaps you will find answers, or perhaps the answers will find you. There are many areas to explore, puzzles to solve and secrets to uncover as you venture further into the depths of the facility, all set within low poly visual aesthetics. You also have to contend with your deteriorating mental state, as the longer you stay inside the underwater facility, the more you begin to hallucinate, along with your heart rate increasing, causing shortness of breath and consciousness. You are so determined to get answers, but you might uncover something you were never meant to see.
Okay.
Something down there.
Okay, keep looking. Sierra Echo.
External readings.
Negative, Sierra Echo 1. We are registering continued elevation in your heart rate and blood pressure. Sierra Echo 1, this is Control. We order you to immediately withdraw from the facility.
Everything was black. And then I opened my eyes.
In Kanpeki, you play as a fashion fanatic, Hoshi Miyamoto, having a mental breakdown after learning that she had come to school with smudged makeup, forcing her to lose her mind. She finds herself trapped in a nightmarish version of her rural hometown, where you must navigate through abandoned streets and portals to buildings in different dimensions while being chased by deranged teenagers hell-bent on killing you, all while having the feeling that your every movement is being watched. Your only means of defense is the use of your taser. Hoshi attempts to escape from the new twisted world she finds herself in, all displayed in a nostalgic art style of classic survival horror gameplay with fixed camera angles and tank controls, to explore the new paths and discover secrets that will unlock clues as to what is happening. This demo presents an interesting take on classic survival horror. Revive is a game about a person named Luke who lost his dog Kevin in an accident. Luke can't bear the loss of his dog, so sets out on a journey after learning of a hidden water stream with mystical powers that has been used to bring the dead back to life. So he ventures on a quest to revive his dog. As you search for the location of this hidden stream that will take you through an overgrown forest and dark caves, you will encounter many undead monsters that were once inhabitants of a small village. So you will be forced to use whatever you can find to defend yourself against the undead. The game was also developed by the same creator responsible for Devil's Valley, so there is a lot of similarities to the overall gameplay. Puppet Combo is a well-known developer in the realm of indie horror, being responsible for some of the most terrifying and horrifically violent games seen in recent times, that have all been inspired by classic videos and movies of early generations. Massacre is one of the most terrifying games of this type that is inspired by games like Resident Evil, but unlike those games, you will spend more time running and hiding, as there is very little that you can do to defend yourself. The developer is also responsible for Babysitter Bloodbath, another horror-focused indie game that utilises a similar playstyle to what you see here. Injured after a car crash, you flee through the woods looking for help, eventually finding your way to an abandoned building. The doors are jammed and you are now locked inside, forced to search through the dark corridors and rubble of derelict rooms to find a way out. But as you explore the building, you will hear the echo of a power drill in the distance, and you suddenly realise that you are not alone. But it won't take long before you witness the horrors that lie within. Can you escape, or will you become the assailant's next victim? Power Drill Massacre is inspired by VHS slasher films of the 80s and PS1 survival horror games, and it is definitely one of the most unnerving and downright terrifying games on this list. Loggerhead is a retro survival horror title set in Australia during the 1980s, inspired by PlayStation classics such as Resident Evil and Silent Hill. This demo is a prologue chapter to the main game, witnessing the unfortunate events of two characters condemned to an eternity in hell, having witnessed the rise of demonic creatures that are unstoppable and cannot be killed. So your only goal is to try and survive for as long as you can. The game utilises all of the classic elements of early survival horror games, with fixed camera angles, tank controls, limited resources, puzzles, unrelenting enemies, bad haircuts, and terrible voice acting. You will witness horrific scenes of violence and events that are not suitable for those with weak stomachs. Pathogen-X reflects on the classic survival horror formula while adding modern gameplay mechanics seen in the more recent titles with Resident Evil 4, playing as a special forces agent being sent on a retrieval mission to infiltrate a secret laboratory infected with a deadly virus to find a vaccine and escape before it is destroyed. You will encounter many hideous creatures and mutated monstrosities along the way, as you also search for weapons and resources to survive long enough to escape, but your journey won't be easy as you will be forced to make important choices, either to engage with enemies or evade them to progress. Even though this is only a demo concept, there is lots of replay value, as each time you play, items and enemy placements are all rearranged to alter the experience every time, requiring you to think in new strategies of how to interact with the environment around you. Don't let the visuals fool you, as this is a challenging and tension-filled experience that will keep you on edge from start to finish. The next game on this list is a dark, atmospheric tale, set in the 17th century where you play as Liberty, a young girl living in a cottage with her parents and her beloved dog. The game is an episode from the Real Stories from the Grave indie horror series. As you unravel their story, you begin to realise that something evil is lurking around them. Playing from a modern over-the-shoulder perspective seen in recent horror titles, the game sets a very distinctive tone that feels like a mix between both Silent Hill and Forbidden Siren, with gloomy textures and visuals set within a beautifully crafted, low-poly style world that is brought to life through sombre atmospheric elements and storytelling. The game is still in development, which is also set for a release on Steam, and is a title worth looking out for, as it is definitely one of the most atmospheric games on this list. The Dead Space series is among the most atmospheric and scariest games of all time that rival the thrills and tension witnessed in both Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and in many cases is even scarier than its counterparts, to the sheer grotesque nature of the hideous abominations you will face. The original game took inspiration from the over-the-shoulder gameplay style of Resident Evil 4 to present one of the scariest games of all time. This Demake is a short recreation of scenes from the first game, using the same over-the-shoulder perspective, but with warped textures and low polygonal visual style of classic PS1 games, seeing you explore many dark, dimly lit environments, searching for resources and keys to solve puzzles to progress, along with fighting against the terrifying necromorph creatures that hide in the shadows of the vents and hallways to tear you to pieces. This is definitely one of the scariest re-envisionings of a game I have ever played, as it is also very atmospheric and scary just like the original game. Seriously, this is one fan-made experience that I highly recommend that you play that will present a short but unforgettable experience.
Car 8 is trashed. We managed to get it back to the repair depot, but then an autoloader is fried. I need a stasis module brought down here now. Look at this piece of...
The Lacerator sees you playing as an adult film star, trapped inside an old rundown building, being stalked by a depraved psychopath who loves to torture and kill his prisoners in the most insane and hideous ways possible. The game is a 70s, 80s style aesthetic, while using low poly graphics for its visual style. You will explore the dilapidated rooms and hallways, trying to find items to look for a way out, but you must be careful as there are many traps tied to the puzzles you will encounter, which can have devastating consequences if you make poor choices. Dangerous puzzles and altercations with the psycho can end in losing limbs, which can play a pivotal role in how you are able to engage with enemy combat and your environments moving forward, so you must be aware of your surroundings at all times. The game looks promising with plenty of hair-raising and tension-filled moments that are dark, gritty and very atmospheric. It is also one of the most disturbing games on this list. The Lacerator is still currently in development, with a current playable demo available which you can access on both Steam and itch.io. The Torture House takes place in September 1994, where you play as Victoria Atkins, a young aspiring model who is travelling through Cook County, Texas, in search of job opportunities when she suddenly disappears. While it is initially believed that she had simply become lost on the road, days passed without any sign of her, but what no one could imagine were the horrors of the ultra-violence she would experience in a place that could easily be described as hell, the Torture House. You will explore many dangerous environments filled with traps and puzzles to solve while being relentlessly stalked by your attacker, whose only goal is to kill you through sadistic torture methods. The game has been developed by Spring Rabbit, who is known for creating retro slasher horror experiences, similar to other indie horror developers such as Puppet Combo. It is definitely a game worth checking out for fans of slasher horror movies. Prayers from the Abyss is a low-poly indie horror experience, playing as a young woman trying to get back home to her father who is critically ill. But on her journey, the car she is driving runs out of fuel, so she finds a place to stop to look for help, which will place her in situations not of this world. As you walk further into the wilderness, the world around you begins to change, and you become sick, coughing up blood with no reason as to what is happening. You will be taken on a journey to figure out what is happening, where you will uncover many stories and truths behind these events while witnessing the rise of hideous monsters and zombies that will stop at nothing to kill you, so you will need to use whatever you can to survive. Like many of the other games on this list, it utilises the classic survival horror perspective with a lot of interesting ideas, with plenty of promise that is sure to appeal to fans of this gaming style, so it will be interesting to see if any further progress will be made with the development of this game.
No.
There are some impressive ideas in this list that appeal to long-time fans, while also providing new gameplay elements and atmosphere that is sure to draw more players into the realm of classic survival horror. All of the links to find these games will be in the description below so that you can go and try them out. Hopefully we will get to see more of these games in the near future, as there are some very interesting concepts in development. But while we wait, we still need to keep searching for more indie horror experiences that are out there, which this next video will provide, so be sure to check it out.